Hello and welcome back to art class. What we're going to be doing today is we're going to be making a winter cabin scene, and we're going to make our cabin look a little bit 3D. So what you're going to need a few materials. You're going to need a white piece of paper. You're going to need a pencil, probably one eraser. You're going to want a straight edge or a ruler. Ruler would be best, but just having a straight edge will be fine. And you're going to want, if you can, a post-it note is probably the best way to go. And the reason why is the post-it note is a square and it's actually 3 inches on each side. Another item that you might have floating around your house though is if you have Duplos, you can put them together like this, 2 on the bottom, 2 on the top, and they're almost the same size. So this will work too, but you're looking for a square around 3 inches by 3 inches. I'm going to use the sticky note because it's pretty easy. All right, so the first thing that we're going to do, you're going to take your paper and you're going to fold it in half like a book. Like that, okay? We're going to be using the back of this paper for practice. So this project does take a little bit of practice just because it's some new information. Right. So I'm going to go ahead and flip it over to the back. And first thing we're going to do is we're going to use a sticky note. The sticky note is actually just for tracing. And we're going to put it, let's put it close to the middle, it's like that. And then I need you to, that's not very straight. We do need it to be kind of straight as a square. And you're going to trace it. Like that, pretty easy. Make sure it's got nice corners. Next, you're going to need to put a roof on it. So that's pretty easy. You're going to put a dot above it because roofs for a basic house are, triangle. So then you use your ruler and you're going to connect the corners. Make sure you actually are connecting the corner to the dot. Don't be lazy and just do it to a side. You need to make sure that it gets actually to the corner. Does that mean it takes a little bit longer to get the ruler to move where you need to? Yeah, but it will look so much better. Okay, so there's my basic house. That doesn't really look like a cabin. We want it to be kind of 3D. So what we're gonna do is we need to draw, this is actually the front of the cabin, but we need to draw the side of the cabin going off to the side. But we also need it to go off into the distance so it looks like it's going a little bit away from us. So that means, if you think about it, things that are a little bit further away look a bit smaller. So the front of a house might look a little bit bigger because it's close to you, but the back of the house will look a little bit smaller because it is a little bit further away from you. So this is how we do it. Like I said, we're doing this on the back so we can practice. The first thing we do is with their straight edge, you're going to kind of line up the bottom of the house there. So if we were going to make it just perfect, without doing it going off in the distance, we could go perfectly straight, but that's not going to look right. So we need to actually tilt the bottom a bit. So we're tilting it up like that. And then we're going to draw it. And let's say so about a thumb space away from the edge of the paper. So it's about a thumb space away from the edge. So it's not going to be perfectly flat. It's actually tilted up a little bit. Then we're going to go to the top. Okay? And if anything's getting smaller, it's actually going to slant downward. So I'm going to take my ruler, and if it was perfectly level, it would look like this. Then I'm going to slant it downward a little bit. And again, I'm going to go about a thumb space. Now, part of this line will get erased because we have to adjust the size here, but we're going to get started. Okay. Now, there is a third line that needs to be done. Okay, and again, if it was perfectly straight, and believe it or not, I actually need this one to be perfectly straight because otherwise it'll look weird if it tilts one way or the other. So this line here actually is perfectly straight, and again, about thumb space. Okay, so your roof slants downwards, the bottom of the house slants a little bit upwards, and then the one in the middle is perfectly flat. Yeah. Next, we're going to connect the back of the house because that part should be straight, just like this. That's a wall. You want your wall straight up and down. So I'm going to use my ruler, make sure that it's straight up and down. If you have to erase an end a little bit just to make it so it's straight up and down, then please do that. So let's imagine you went a little too far with this line, and this is what it looks like. Is you got a little bit that looks wrong. Just go in and erase that so that the line for the house is perfectly up and down. Now, here's the problem. If we went straight up here, okay, it won't look right like a roof, because a roof is supposed to be slanted so that the water, rain, and snow will go off it. So if it went straight up and down, that wouldn't look right. So what we're going to do is actually slant the roof so it looks like this. So I can go like here. Okay, it's slanted like that. I can move my ruler back, and I can make it match. So I kind of just went like, made sure my ruler matched that, and then slid it back so that it has the same slant to it. And then I'm going to erase this little bit extra. Like that. Okay, so it's the square, there's the triangle, and we got slant, slant, and then this is perfectly straight. And what I actually like to do is I like to actually get rid of this line right here in the front of the cabin. I don't really like that line separating the sections. So this looks like one big shape, and then there's these shapes right here. So it technically becomes 3 shapes. Okay. We'll deal with adding windows and doors and things like that in a minute, but our basic needs to be to get this basic shape going. So now what we're gonna do, let's flip our picture over. And we're gonna do the same thing. We wanna have it probably 2 to 3 finger spaces from the bottom. We don't want it right on the bottom, so I'm gonna go about 2.5 finger spaces. And I want it to be just a little bit off center, so I don't want the middle of the square to be perfectly centered. I want it just a little bit off center. Okay. Now remember, I am on the front. This is my final version. I'm going to trace my square. I'm gonna go a little bit faster because we've now practiced it. Dot for the roof. There we go. Okay. Next, I need to do the side. So I do the level part, tilt it up, go to about a thumb space, slant that down just a little bit. Go to about a thumb space. And this one is actually flat. About the thumb space. Next, remember to pause and rewind as much as you need for this. I'm going to make the line go straight up and down for the back of the wall. Erased a little bit extra. The roof needs to be slanted, so I use this. And slant it, and then I can erase the extra. Like that. Okay. Next, our focus needs to be, once you get this done, you're gonna flip it back to the back side, and I'll put the word back on here. We're gonna do an evergreen tree. So I'm gonna show you an easy way to make an evergreen tree that looks, think kind of Christmas tree. Okay, so the way this works is you want to start kind of close to the top. And this is, remember, we're practicing on the back. And you're going to use triangles. I like to start with a small triangle on top. And basically they're overlapping triangles to get bigger. So this next one is going to get bigger. But if you notice, I don't finish the very top because that's where the overlap happens. I'm going to do the next one. Next one's going to go a little bit off the page. That. Now you can stop with 3 if it gets close to the ground. Some people want to go with a 4th one, and again I'm running out of room, so I'm going to go behind the object and then the rectangle down here. Okay, so 3 to 4 usually does the job. Each triangle is getting bigger. I've seen people, they do this. They draw a triangle, then they draw the next triangle almost the same size, and it never looks like it's actually getting bigger. Okay, that doesn't really work. Most trees don't do that. So it should get wider as they go. Okay. Practice that on the back. Then you're gonna flip it over and you're gonna do it on the back, front. And you're gonna pick it here. And it is okay if it goes off the page. So I'm gonna start with my triangle. And I think I'm actually just gonna go with the trunk like that. Okay. Don't worry that this looks like it's floating. That's not a big deal, because that's our last step. Our last step is to put in the ground, which goes behind everything. And it doesn't have to be perfectly level, but since there's not a whole lot of room, you do want it to look kind of level, because you don't want it to be a line here, then a line way up here. That just doesn't make any sense. Okay, this is where we're gonna be for today. So I want you to get this far, because you're gonna have to do some practice work to make this happen, some pausing, rewinding, and things like that to make sure you understand what's going on. So once you get this far, snap a photo of it, upload it to Google Classroom, and I will see you next week.